What you see on screen highlights the concern that Kenny Veach may have not been the only one out there at the time of when he went missing. Hi there, welcome to the Kenny Veach M-Cave Mystery. Today I wanted to share with you an important comment by Kenny Veach himself before he went missing. Now this was originally located on YouTube on a video called Son of an Area 51 Technician. Unfortunately with time, Kenny's final traces were removed and deleted, and that's unknown as to why. But there are remnants online and quotes on behalf of what Kenny said, and that's what I'm going to look at today and share with you. I'm going to give my analysis on the matter. It does tie in with the theory of maybe there were unwelcomed guests out there, people that may have had a grudge against Kenny, or those that may have silenced him at the time of when Kenny headed out there. All these different possibilities, that's why we're looking at this theory today, but tying it in with some hard material, because Kenny Veach appeared to be very open and welcoming. So take that on board for today and make sure to stick around from start to finish to fully understand this. It would be appreciated. Now, at any point, whether you're in this live premiere, share your thoughts in the chat, or in general, leave your comments and questions down below under this video. I can respond back to them at a later point. You'll also find down below a pinned comment by me with some additional links. Make sure to check them out when you do have time. And if you simply want to catch up on my earlier recent videos, top right corner of the screen where the eye symbol is, if you click on that, you'll be able to find them there. Okay? So the order of how we're going to do things today, first and foremost, I'll share with you the actual comment and message by Kenny Veach to set the scene, and then we can apply it to the maps and Google Earth to work around the questions of, if Kenny Veach wasn't alone out there, would it have resulted in the same outcome of him going missing and supposedly presumed dead, or would we see a change? That's what we need to be on the lookout for today. Let's head on over to the website right now and begin reading. Here we are. So what you see on screen is an extract from the article that I read out a couple of months ago, and I did highlight the key point mentioned by Kenny. Okay? First and foremost, up top where you see the photo, that's Kenny Veach, in case you're wondering, and we'll begin reading the text underneath it. It reads, Kenny Veach also at some point allegedly commented the following. Now, the reason why in this article it words it as allegedly is because they're using memory and what others have said. Because I believe this article, it was posted in recent time, or at least 2023 onwards, and it was 2021 onwards at some point when Kenny's comment and thread was deleted from that YouTube video. Okay? So that's why they're saying allegedly. But if you wanted true confirmation, in case you're a bit skeptical, I can say on behalf of me, because I saw Kenny's comment at the time, and there are still photos online here and there. If you look about, I can say with confidence that Kenny Veach did say what he said as quoted on screen. And there are witnesses on my channel, audience members, that have seen the same thing. Okay? So this is what Kenny Veach originally said. The region that I cover is vast. There are many caves. I have been in hundreds of them. The M cave is the only cave I ever feared due to vibrations. I dare any of the people that like to run their mouths on here to join me. And then it goes on to say, looking at the above comments, it's reasonable to assume that some of the YouTube criticism may have at this point been, I guess, the causing factor of him to go back out there, right? So first and foremost, whilst Kenny was introducing himself and his experience and what he saw, there was a couple of doubters, people skeptical who didn't believe him, right? So it was all about going out there and hiking. Where's the proof? Where's the evidence? And Kenny wasn't able to find that proof and evidence. So in between the recorded hike in October and the final hike in November 10th, this comment can apply. Kenny Veach responding back to the skeptics, the ones that criticise him and, question his credibility on the matter and subject. It's understandable as to why Kenny would be, at the time, saying, you know what, you want to keep on talking? Join me on a hike and I'll show you myself. I'll prove it to you, firsthand, so people actually see it in real time. And that's where the question comes on in. Does this and can it apply to Kenny's final hike? And I would say there is obviously a chance. Now, did he specifically announce to anyone online publicly on what day, what month he was going to go out there on his final hike? No, not from what I can remember. But it depends how news gets around, how news gets about. It can spread. And just by simply Kenny Veach publicly stating that he was going out there at some point again, and that he's already been previously, and what he's already seen previously, he's putting the place on the map, right? The area, what we're looking at today, Joe May Canyon, it's a remote, desolate place, and it's kind of dangerous terrain, environment, and wildlife. Not many people would really go there, unless they wanted to challenge themselves or go up one of the peaks, maybe, or if they were truly looking for something like Kenny Veach. Even when Kenny Veach put the place on the map and it became a bit more well known to the general population out there, only a handful of hikers have been out there since, and they were doing it primarily searching for Kenny and or the M Cave. So it puts it into perspective there. If anyone is going to go out there with Kenny Veach, they have to have a good enough reason to do so, because it takes quite a bit of effort to go out there and cover the distance like what Kenny supposedly did. So if you got a group of people wanting to go out there with Kenny because they want to be proven wrong, as they're skeptics of the whole situation, they might do it. If it's someone or some group that are wanting to silence Kenny because he's talking too much online and revealing secrets, well, they would definitely be determined to be out there and be ready, right? If it came to military, okay? Why do we say military? Because there could be something out there on public land and the military want to take over it, because that's a fact. In the past, land proposal takeover by military, and it just so happened to occur after Kenny Veach went missing, after Kenny Veach announced the discovery of the M Cave. How convenient timing that is, right? So if it's someone of higher authority, they probably would be able to, or possibly track conversations via the phone. So whilst Kenny Veach had contact with his ex-girlfriend and family, and Hunter Veach, his nephew, about when he's going out and how long he'll be out there for, if there was someone elsewhere, higher ups, were able to intercept those calls or messages, they could be able to track him and anticipate when he'd be going out there, right? This is what I mean. We can look at a general theory that Kenny wasn't alone out there. Then we've got the proof here that Kenny Veach was almost goading people to, come at him and to go on his hike, even though it's quite dangerous. There was no mention by Kenny Veach about, if you do come, just make sure you're prepared, make sure you've got experience and this and that and health and safety. No, Kenny Veach was just flat out calling out anyone from online. And sometimes when you do call out people online, it can backfire. Did it backfire on Kenny Veach this time round? That's what we've got to try and understand. But you see it for yourself. Kenny Veach at the time saying, I dare any of the people that like to run their mouths on here to join me. Now, did anyone join him, such as on his final hike? We don't know. Let's go onto the maps right now to continue this possible story and the outcome. So I'm going to explain the markers very shortly. The one thing just to highlight, these orange ones, just forget about for today. Okay, this is from an old project. We're just focusing on down here in this area. And as well, Kenny's former home, place of living. Now, if you'd like to see an updated video of what his house appears like nowadays with the new updated satellite imagery, be sure to let me know in the comment section or the live chat box. And as well, we're going to use this as the starting point for today, basing it on around the time, the day, November 10th, of when Kenny Veach set out there one final time and was never seen again by most people. Okay? So, I think we need to apply it to the specific theory for now that Kenny Veach was welcoming anyone to hike with him, not against him, right? Because when we're looking at hiking against him, that's more foul play, and we have already looked at that in previous videos. I can always make reference points later on in this one to highlight the possibilities, but for now I just want to work around the possibilities that Kenny's former place of living, him setting out on the day to do his hike, if he was to hike with fellow people from YouTube, where would the meeting starting point be? Would it be, everybody, I'll see you at the DNWR National Wildlife Refuge Centre, or I'll see you down Joe May Road, that's where we'll meet up and wait, or, you know, at his house? I think that would be a bit silly, that, but you get what I'm saying. We need to understand the possibilities and how it would have gone, right? For Kenny to call anyone out online, that can come with its own risk, of course. With time, there have been people, don't know how successful it's been, but there's been attempts where people online have been trying to reach out to one another to hike out there. But there was a level of caution, questions and answers. Are you fit enough? Are you able? Because, you know, Kenny Veach at the time, maybe an avid hiker, may be able to do the terrain and the desolate location like here with the temperature changes, the elevation, the rocks, the loose ground, the gravel. Yeah, Kenny has experience, but what about other people commenting online? Maybe not. Maybe they've never set foot out in the desert before. So if anyone did tag along with Kenny, that could have led to more problems than anything else, really, because other people would be traipsing behind, getting injured possibly, dehydrating, tiring, slowing down, which would then slow down Kenny Veach and his progress. It could have a chain effect. Normally, if you're going out there and you just happen to invite someone with you, there needs to be a bit of dialogue before you even set out there to make sure that they are able to compete with you when keeping up with the pace and hiking out in a dangerous area like that. Because whilst when you're by yourself, that can be a danger, when there's another person or a third person, that can become excess baggage. And what? You have to carry them back. You have to drag them back. Extra weight, extra time. There's a lot of implications it can have. Now, in this case with Kenny Veach, is it for certain that Kenny was with a group of people? No, but under the theory and possibility, that's what we need to take a look at, right? And as well, this main theory and point is to counter the suicide claim. Whilst the ex-girlfriend has suggested it, and not for definite, and whilst the majority of human audience members out there, outsiders to this channel, have nodded their head and went along with the mental health bandwagon, it's about being realistic right now. If Kenny Veach was suicidal and went out there and not planned on returning back, it was a one-way trip for certain, then why did Kenny Veach call people out online to hike with him then? You get what I'm saying? Whether that applies to his October hike, the one where he made it back safely, or more so, his final hike out there. If Kenny Veach wanted to shut people's mouths who kept talking and running a lot, and he called people out to go with him, why would you call people out to go with you on your hike if you're planning on ending your life out there and you have an audience watching you? Seems a bit weird, doesn't it? So I'm pointing across that if people were there with him, would it have led or prevented the possible death of Kenny Veach? Okay? So with that introduction out the way, we return back to Kenny's place of living, former place of living, okay? as you see there. We don't need to zoom in too much because I do need to make a separate video on it when looking at it closer, okay? But quick little look there. There's his house, former house, okay? So with this being a former place of living at the time, November 10th, 2014, the girlfriend, family were aware of what he was going to do in terms of a hike, like a 1 to 2 day overnight hike. So he was going to camp out there on November 10th. Now, the last known physical contact was between Kenny Veach and his ex-girlfriend Sharon Pilgrim the night before at around 2200 hours when they went to a movie theatre, a cinema in Las Vegas to watch a film. And I think it was at 2300 hours onwards they parted ways and went back to their own places of living. Okay? Then comes November 10th in the morning around 6 a.m. Kenny Veach texts Sharon Pilgrim about what he's going to do and that he's heading out very shortly. Okay? So that's the facts, the original story. Okay, that's how it's been told. That's what appears on the missing person report, official police report in the name of Kenny Veach's profile. Okay, so with that being said and done, Kenny Veach wakes up in the morning, tells people what he's doing via text. If he was going to be hiking with other people, would it have already been planned by then, right? If he's calling people out to go with him, was there a follow-up in dialogue, communication with those individuals? Was there any private DMs and messages of, oh, you're interested in going out? You want to be proven wrong? Right, here's the deal. This is where we're going to meet. This is the equipment you need. Did any of that happen? Don't know. I've not seen anything. But on the basis that it did, on that theory, where do you think they would meet? I would suggest the DNWR. You don't want to be meeting with anyone you call out online if it's within your area of living, because that can put you at danger, at risk. So if we zoom on out from Kenny's place, facing north, over that way, you got Sheep Peak going in the direction. Getting onto the highway, wherever that is, and making your way to the DNWR, okay? Over that way, Corn Creek Visitor Centre. I think it might be this road that branches off. I'm only doing this very quickly. Yes. Corn Creek Visitor Centre. Is that the one with the logbooks? There we go. Just doing this on the spot in case you're wondering. And the road there. This is the thing. Just as a reference, in case you wonder why anything looks different, it's because updated satellite imagery. Okay? So some things don't show as clearly now, like Joe May Road. You see the road here? This bit here. This is roughly an area where Kenny Veach parked his vehicle on the 10th of November. In this area, roughly where the blue marker is, but more so on the side of the road as you see here, because there are some lay-bys where you can pull on over. Okay, so first and foremost, could this be the meeting area if Kenny did invite anyone with him on his final hike? Do you think this would be a suitable place to meet up? Or do you think it would make more sense to meet up further down that way around Corn Creek Visitor Centre? I'd say it makes more sense down there, or the Desert National Wildlife Refuge Centre. Yeah, Corn Creek. I don't know if I ever gave much attention to that area. As I said, the bloody imagery has changed with time. But just to confirm one thing in the name of J. Silverhills and the logbooks. Do we have it on site? I think that might be it. There we go. There's a logbook in the name of Silverhills in that little sealed thing. Some of you may have no clue what I'm talking about there. You need to check my channel out for further context, okay? But the logbook on top of the Wildlife Refuge Centre, as you can see there, you can go inside, explore, hang out. There is a parking lot there. I think this would be a more suitable place to be meeting up with people before you do set out down Jermay Road up to Jermay Canyon, because along that way you could have a puncture, something could go wrong, and you are in a slightly more remote area stranded, okay? And you'd have to walk all the way back to the visitor centre if anything went wrong. So I think if Kenny Veach was meeting up with anyone, or anyone decided to tag along, this would be the meeting spot, right? It's further enough away from Kenny's place of living, and it's close enough to the hike route without it being too remote. So if anything went wrong here, people at the centre, park rangers, would be able to assist and help, okay? So, if Kenny Veach is supposedly suicidal in the back of his mind, yet he's with other people, what would that lead to? What would the hike entail? And how would the other people, hikers, react to Kenny on that hike route? Would they notice anything strange? Would they act out? Would they complain if the cave wasn't found? You get what I'm saying? Because what I do want to highlight, it's not just the normal hike route you got to take into consideration. It's the alternative plan, Kenny Veach's plan B. If he didn't find the M cave when going out there around Jermay Canyon, he would then hike north for about 45 miles in one direction. Let that sink in. 45-mile hike, something he's never done before, and he would only do it if he didn't find the M cave. Why the change of direction in mindset? Why would you go from trying to look for the cave in the area you claim to have found it to now, if I don't find it, I'll just go north. North, onwards, for what? What are you searching for? That's 45 miles onwards. And if Kenny was with other people, wouldn't Kenny Veach be putting other people's lives at risk because maybe it wasn't a part of the debrief? Not debrief, it wasn't a part of the briefing before people set out there. You get what I'm saying? I said, people can counter it and say what Kenny Veach said online, he didn't truly mean, etc., etc. But this is the thing. Whilst Kenny Veach may have not truly meant it, other people may have taken it more seriously, taken it as a challenge or a threat. So by Kenny indirectly calling people out just at the time because he was fed up with people critiquing him and calling him out, he decided to dish it back. But sometimes it can backfire, right? So you can base it on the question of, if Kenny Veach was suicidal at the time, on that day, why would he even consider inviting anyone to go on his hike with him if he's not planning on returning back? If Kenny Veach is more experienced than all the people who want to tag along, Kenny has a responsibility in the safety of everyone and guiding people through. If he ends his life on the hike whilst other people are there present, it's going to be distressing and it's going to cause some problems in possibly returning back. Maybe, if the main tour guide, if you want to call it, has been taken out. It seems a little bit selfish as well to commit suicide in front of, general public, just like that, right? Take in mind, Kenny Veach did originally say that if he was to ever end his life, he would do it somewhere where he would never be found, such as the Mojave Desert, Jermay Canyon. So once again, why would he invite people on his hike if he wasn't intending on being found? Whilst taking people with him, people would be able to possibly locate him back. Now, it's fair to say that if any normal human wanted to hike with him because they wanted to see it for themselves, then if anything truly went wrong with Kenny, which in a way it did because he never returned back nor mentioned an update online, he was reported as missing, anyone tagging along with Kenny at the time surely would have been a witness in the case and have reached out to Las Vegas Metro Police Department, the family, or news programs. That never happened. We've heard claims of people trying to go out there on behalf of searching for Kenny, but no one claiming to have hiked with Kenny at the time. The only bullshitter what we heard of was some woman called Liz Gasper something nutrition. Some person in the past saying back in 2001, 2002, they went on a hike tour with Kenny Veach, and I'm thinking, What? They also commented on the Dylan Rounds case as well, doing the rounds, no pun intended, with a load of bullshit coming out of both ends. So we can tick that off the list and not really highlight that. But in terms of any other case, I've not really heard anyone speaking on behalf of a hike with Kenny Veach in that sense at the time, right? But there's always still that possibility that if anyone was going out there with or against Kenny Veach, the only reason why they wouldn't report on it is because they're responsible for something or they saw something they're not allowed to talk about. Okay, so a bit of foul play, a bit of dodgy shadiness going on. Unless, and it's a very, very, very small chance, Kenny Veach led people, if he had a group with him hiking to a dangerous remote area and they all somehow got injured or succumbed to the environment, depending. Of course, survival rates for the different people out there will vary based on the person themselves, how they react to temperature changes, what gear they have on them at the time, etc. Okay, I'm not saying that this is a murder case in that sense, like Kenny Veach has taken other people out. I'm not quite wording it like that. It could be more so that someone took Kenny Veach out, but why exactly? And that's what we're trying to understand. So besides this possibility and theory that there was a meeting point if anyone took up on Kenny Veach's offer, what about the hike itself? Okay, actually making it to this point, working their way down. One thing to highlight, and it is obvious that there was only one vehicle found on site at the time of when, search and rescue went out there. So it would have been around 22nd of November, okay? Quite some time on from when Kenny went out there and when Kenny was reported missing. So with that gap in between, the chances of survival would have been very low, probably, okay? Now, with only one vehicle being out there, then it would highlight and say, well, clearly there was no visitors or anyone tagging along with Kenny, right? Because surely the vehicles would have been left behind. Well, it depends, doesn't it? If other people went with Kenny on a hike and something went wrong and all their lives ended, then yeah, vehicles would be left behind. Unless it was only a small group of people that met at the DNWR Visitor Centre at the car park and then ended up being picked up by Kenny in the vehicle he had, because it was kind of like an SUV. It had multiple seats, and then they drove down to Joe May Canyon in one vehicle just because of ease and access. But then again, they could highlight its own problems, because if that one vehicle broke down, you don't have another as a backup. So it would make more sense if people individually went in their own vehicles down Joe May Road. And because no vehicles were found after, when search and rescue got there, it would highlight it was only Kenny and only Kenny himself that went out there. Yeah, but let's take in mind that even at the time of when Kenny Veach went on his recorded hike, the one he made back safely, the video you see on his channel where he's near to the mine shaft and he hovers about and he's looking towards the mountains over that way, and he talks about how in the past he had to make it back to the highway on foot to be picked up by his girlfriend. In that conversation of that video, there was a slight female laughter of like that. That raised some kind of question and suspicion then. And on top of it, throughout the video, there was additional footsteps on and off. And on top of it, there was like some weird paranormal whisper voices when he made his way down Pitcher Canyon. So really, even on the second hike out there, Kenny Veach wasn't exactly by himself. So that's what raises the questions there. And the possibility that someone may have been hiding behind a camera or out of view when Kenny was on his recorded hike, from what I just said before, when you add it all up and put it into perspective. So it might not be the only time. You never know. But we need to focus on the 10th of November, the final hike. And, I know the girlfriend said that Kenny took a firearm with him. Well, he has done previously for protection against wildlife and whatever he was intending on searching for, such as the cave and whatever was in there, the contents. The girlfriend did say that he did not take his video camera, so, obviously not intending on actually recording anything, but the girlfriend did contradict herself by saying how, well, the camera for taking photos was missing from his house, so likely he took that with him on his hike. So he took something then to document his journey out there. Right? Now, if Kenny Veach wasn't suicidal, or at least that wasn't on his mind at the time, and he genuinely wanted to hike out there, well, if he was with anyone, would it have gone wrong? But you'd think so, because Kenny didn't make it back. So you're saying that the visitors, the ones tagging along, the guest, did make it back? Well, if they did make it back, they would have reported on something going wrong. They would have reported to the police or the family, or they would have come out forwards when it got into the news. So I would say Kenny inviting people along to do a nice, happy hike probably is unlikely, because with it going wrong, surely they would have come out forwards and publicly said something. The only side possibility is, wherever Kenny Veach ended up, if there was an accident, if he was with other people, they could have had an accident too, and none made it back. But if that was the case, it wouldn't explain as to why only one vehicle was down Joe May Road in terms of practical reasons. So it leads me on to believe that maybe Kenny Veach did have unwanted visitors at the scene of where he was hiking at the time, because of who he called out online, Kenny, on YouTube, and because of who may have been monitoring and listening in to Kenny at the time, and when publicly putting the place on the map, right? So if military are responsible in some way, or government possibly. You get what I'm saying? We go through this bit by bit, use common sense, put into perspective. Right. So what you see highlighted in orange is the hike route that Kenny Veach originally took in his recorded hike video. Is this presumed or assumed to be the same hike route he took when he went November 10th? Well, up to a certain point, I would say. Car found down there at a later point by search and rescue. Up here, I think I've got it in the correct spot. Yes, I do. So you got that agave burn pit there, and then just a bit higher up on the hill, that's the mine shaft, okay, and just ahead is Wild Horse Pass, which dips on down, and over the mountain ridge down that way is Pitcher Canyon, if you work your way down, and that would be heading west. But before that, I've decided to update the markers so there's a bit more relevance and backstory behind this. Okay, 22nd of November, when search and rescue went out there, they went up to the mineshaft area because of following a scent, as it was originally described, and the scent ended at the mineshaft, but what they did find was Kenny Veach's phone and some loose coins. As for the condition of the items, unknown of. As for the photos of proof and evidence, hasn't been presented or provided to the general public. Search and rescue have been very tight-lipped about it. Very unfortunate, I know. But the questions of, did Kenny Veach take his phone and coins out on purpose? Was it accidental? Did he drop it? Did it fall out of his pocket? Was the phone gently placed down, or was it thrown down in force, in urgency, or did someone stamp on it? The original claim by, the bandwagon people and the girlfriend was, Kenny Veach left his phone and coins at the mineshaft because he didn't want to be traced or tracked to his final resting spot. What I would say to that is, why would you even take your phone with you into the desert area? Even if it's just the starting point, why would you take that phone with you to begin with? If you don't want to be found, you wouldn't even take anything with you to begin with. You want to eliminate all possibilities of being traced or tracked, right? Because when you give off a brief location, people can go there and expand on searches and may just so happen to find you. So you kind of gone against your own mentality there, right? So that's what makes us think that maybe Kenny Veach placed it there or dropped it there because of a form of urgency, being rushed. Something happened, possibly. Taking in mind that his scent ended at the mineshaft, it raises questions as to, did it go on any further, or did he walk back the way he went? Now, on the basis that if he did have visitors, okay, normal people or ones that had it in for him, would they have played any role or factor in preventing Kenny from committing suicide or not? Or would they have been an enabling factor, right? Because if you're going against the original boring, regurgitated narrative with little evidence or proof of it, I think if Kenny Veach had an audience, he'd probably be less likely to end his life himself. Does that make sense? Because he doesn't want to be found, but if people are present, well, they can, as long as they stay alive, they would be able to report Kenny as being in this spot if they chose to do so. You get what I'm saying? So I think if there was an audience, it probably would have prevented the possibility of a suicide. Now, just to revert back to the original point, because I didn't mention it earlier, if Kenny Veach did and was suicidal at the time and this was his final hike out there, and Kenny completely forgot about inviting people onto his hike, but unexpectedly they turned out and hung out with Kenny on that day, would Kenny have changed his mind? Okay, he's still missing, of course, but in terms of the suicide claim, would he have been put off doing it if he found out there was an audience and people with him? So if he wasn't alone, wasn't truly alone, would that have helped him in any way? I want to know your thoughts there. Just on that little theory. It's not guaranteed, but I thought I'd just put it out there. Nevertheless, to return back to the foul play aspect, because there is that small possibility. One thing that does reinforce it, as said, was military land takeover, the proposal, which occurred twice, and the first time round did encompass this whole area, okay? Where these markers all are, and in between, would have been taken over by military land, right? And that was after Kenny Veach went missing. Why would the military want to expand on land when they've already got enough? And why specifically here? And why the timing as well? It all seems to be a very strong coincidence or a deeper meaning behind it. That's what I would say, at least. Okay, military land over this way, bombing range, test range, over here, publicly available to the general public, but on and off, military want to take it. Okay. I did raise the question though that if anything was of interest to the military, if anything was planted here by the military, why would they install it on public land, right? If you got the likes of Area 51, you got these military bases and they may install new items or objects on site facilities. Well, they already own the land, they can develop stuff on it, but why put sensitive things on public land when the general public at any point could stumble across it? Unless it's because military just don't expect anyone to go here. And in a way, that would be kind of a fair point because it is a desolate place. But someone like Kenny Veach, okay, come across as a stubborn individual towards the possible military. Oh, look, who's this guy? Look where he's at and what he's doing. But take in mind, you know, one thing what I do find very interesting, whilst the timing of Kenny Veach supposedly finding the cave and describing it online, the other hikers that had been there since and on multiple occasions, have they received the same resistance? Some maybe, others not. Some have received some kind of indirect strange experiences of possible creatures, urban legends out there, which may not be directly related to military. So there's a mix and match of different things, I guess. As for the tent and sword down here, that was a later finding in 2022, I believe, by Scott Natal, fellow hiker. Now, with a tent and sword, the sword being a bamboo concealed one, raised possibility of was there like a little outpost, someone camping out there much earlier on in anticipation for Kenny Veach. So if it wasn't military, it wasn't government, it could have been a stray hiker that saw Kenny's call out online and took it as a challenge to beat him to the area, to get there before Kenny, and to take him out. Hence why Kenny never made it back. And if Kenny was at the mine shaft and his coins and phone were found scattered or dumped near to the mine, is that because there was a tussle? Did anything happen? I wonder. Right? Interesting. I don't know if you want any more context on the sword and tent. Some people use the theory as a murder, killer, hideout den of some sort. not too far away from the mine shaft, closer to the cave area and Pitcher Canyon. Now, how would this person who may be online have heard about Kenny and decided to stalk him? How would they know when exactly he would be going out there? Personally, I don't know the ins and outs of all the stalking, but if any of you can add on from experience or knowledge, feel free to do so if you want to back up that theory and claim. Okay. The only issue, I know some people have called out Scott Natal for planting those items there, which would be unfortunate, but there's not enough proof to suggest that either. The one thing that is lacking is footage before 2022. If you were able to date it back to at least 2015 or 2016 that sword and tent was found there within that rock formation, if that could have been proven, even though it wasn't, if it could, it would have been more relevant to the time of 2014 because it would have been closer then to the time Kenny went missing and the possibility that someone was already out there and awaiting for Kenny's arrival. Now you could question and say, well, if that really is the case, then why has no one else been murdered if they've been out there? Maybe it's because they didn't call anyone out online. I don't know. As said, these are all different ideas. I just try and tie it together, not just to create a random story, but, a possibility behind it all, right? So I think at the time of 10th of November, Kenny, yes, did make it to the mine shaft, but past that point is unknown due to his scent ending there. My original idea was he hiked back the way he came and possibly staged a disappearance, right? But that's a separate idea. That's a separate story and video. But I just want to share with you my point of view on top of this. But if someone was lurking in the area, awaiting Kenny's arrival, what did they do to Kenny, right? If we knew what condition the phone and coins were in, that could put greater perspective as to the possibility. There was no mention of bones or blood being found at the scene, so there's not enough evidence there to suggest Kenny was hurt or fatally hurt, taken out, right? But if anyone was out there at the time of Kenny being present, it would probably have had to been someone responsible for some kind of foul play, because they never reported back or in on the case. No one ever came forwards at the time as like a witness, right? So if anyone was out there, they were probably in on it in some way. And going along with my theory that if anyone did assist or help him cover up and stage a disappearance and start a new life, there might be someone on the inside that have helped him along the way who aren't telling the full story or the full truth, whether that be in interviews or online. And that if anyone does get too close to the truth or, throws things out into the air of possibility, they may get targeted, and we have seen that previously. So levels of resistance can be somewhat consistent with how close you are to the truth and the dark reality of things, okay? So I want to know your thoughts on the matter. Do you think it would have played a pivotal role if Kenny Veach did invite people onto his hike and actual people took it on board? Do you think it would have made a difference to the outcome? Would Kenny Veach still have been missing or not? And if you do believe that someone was out there with or against Kenny Veach, are they responsible for his disappearance? Leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Also, make sure to like and share this video so more people can learn about the case and this alternative theory. Hopefully you found this video interesting. I just wanted to put it out there. I want to see your discussions, whether you agree or disagree or partially agree. I guess we'll see and what happens with time. I've still got some more ideas to cover, but I think the title of this video specifically is relevant because I believe that Kenny Veach, there was a want and need behind it. Kenny Veach wanted to prove people wrong. Kenny Veach wanted to show people what he actually saw. Kenny Veach needed that form of credibility due to the situation he was in at the time with money issues, but also trying to maybe make a go of his YouTube channel. and also that need to reinforce Kenny's experience and knowledge out there in the desert, because I'm sure he didn't want to be a laughingstock, and I'm sure he didn't want to be mistreated or disrespected online, hence why it was another motivating factor behind him going back out there, right? Multiple times, motivated to see it once again and to actually document it, and even better, to have people there to witness it besides him. Because, you know, if you always get one individual that sees something in this world, an event, a sighting, could be UFOs, could be Bigfoot, anything. One person sees it but doesn't record it and then tells the general public, the world, are they going to be listened to? No, they'll probably be labeled as a crazy person. But if there were multiple people present individually, all coming to the same consensus of what they saw individually, well, then it does raise a few eyebrows and people may be more likely to believe in it. Of course, footage is always key and always necessary. But at least from Kenny Veach's perspective, the very first time round, he was not anticipating it. He did not record it. Now, we're aware that Kenny Veach did take photos of his hikes in the past, like 2012 or 2013. It makes me think, did Kenny Veach have any kind of camera with him on that one particular hike he came across the cave? Did he make up any excuses, I wonder? I think maybe we could leave that for a separate video, just a brief question, discussion to put in perspective, compare, contrast to previous documentation of stuff, right? If you're going to do it then why not now? Some kind of excuse or just being ill-prepared. Be on the lookout for that video, and on top, the other video to do with updated satellite imagery. Take in mind today we were looking at, I think, 2023, 24 satellite imagery. So the terrain slightly changes and the colour, of course. Sometimes it does make it harder to track the pathways, track marks, etc. Just in case you were wondering. It might take me a bit more time now compared to what I remember seeing back then when it was 2019 imagery, I believe. But nevertheless, there are still videos to come. We'll get to them one by one. Be on the lookout for them. Thanks for watching. Hopefully people were patient enough to understand all this. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Goodbye, good night for now.